malungil sil sel mora ruguil adal kuk ertial tugubet sel program ra TMC el mo mudadu lo bangela tugubet sel okyak kanga atrangut belum makti mo bul ko ram rigel magwital te al peska bul ko ram rigel gera buku gera to ram rigel manger. This evening we're blessed to have with us a prominent leader from the Marshall Islands, and this young man has served, in the government of the Marshalls for several years, and he's now a member of Parliament. His name is Minister Casten Nemura, Minister of Foreign Affairs under President David Kabua. And as you know, they graced our independence celebration for the last few days, and they're leaving tomorrow. But he's gracious to give us opportunity to talk with him publicly in this special program. So, Mr. Nemura, I guess if I ask you to just get a brief introduction of yourself and how many years have you been in the government and as an employee and then also as a minister.
Oh, absolutely. Well, first of all, please call me Casten.
Casten, okay. Yeah.
Yes, I want to first of all say thank you for inviting me. I find it quite, pleasure to be here. And yes, name is Casten Nemura. I'm a current Minister of Foreign Affairs for the Marshall Island government.
You're counterpart of Ms. Tinaru, right?
Yes, and with Minister, that's right. And this is my second term in Parliament. I first came into Parliament in 2015, and we just finished our election last November, so a new government was formed in January. And with the the appointment, President David was, honored to ask me to take the portfolio for foreign affairs, and of course, it was my duty to accept his appointment. But prior to that, I was also in the civil service for a post called Chief Secretary, which is the advisor for cabinet. And I had that post for about 7 years. And of course, prior to that, I was a junior officer at Ministry of Finance.
So you know some Palan people in finance?
Oh yes, I know Minister Sadang, and we worked closer together. Those were the days we were less gray hair. I know he has gray hair, so I do. Yeah. But yeah, we worked together a lot on numerous work on finance with systems, accounting, and things in that nature, along with other finance within the Micronesia.
Well, I got to know you, as you know, about 4 years ago, when you were elected president.
Yes.
And then President Mangasao sent me and my wife to be a guest in your inauguration. But then I came here about 3 weeks later. The president asked me, he said, "Hey, how come Nemura is no longer president? Maybe you're the cause of it." So you were president, right, for 2 weeks?
Yes. About 2 weeks, and I agree with President Romikazao. I think you're part of that.
But so the parliament elects the president.
Yes, essentially, yes. On our first sitting day, the parliament elects the president, which is an event by itself. And then there is about 2 weeks timeline for the president to appoint his cabinet members. And I think when you left, I was trying to put the cabinet together, and it didn't work out. And that's the way it is. So obviously, a new government came in. So
the president has to be an elected member of parliament.
Yes, absolutely.
And the ministers have to be member of the parliament.
Absolutely. And like today, I'm a minister of foreign affairs, but I'm also the senator from atoll called Jaluj Atoll. So I become a senator first, and then through President Kabua's appointment, then I'm a Minister of Foreign Affairs. So yes, we're in the parliamentary system.
And then, so how many members of the parliament altogether, and how many what's the number of the majority that can elect the president?
Oh, yeah, that's a good question. There are a total of 33 members, and each senator they have their own constituents they represent. And the magic number in our parliament is 17. So after election, usually there's a number of negotiation going on before the first session of the parliament, which is by constitution we have to elect first the vice speaker, speaker, and then the president. So it takes 17, at minimum 17, to determine the next administration.
Okay. But what's your number?
We're 21.
21. So you have a big majority.
Yes, very big majority. The last election, we managed to brought in 5 more into our party.
Party. So tell me, you have political parties, right? So how does your party system works?
Yes, yeah, we do have party system since the establishment of the government, and at times, over the course of the years, it continues to evolve. Some parties have very well organized, and they start to kind of, fade away, and other new parties emerge. But all in all, our parties is known AKA, which is Island Kainat, which is our islands. It's not a new party. It's a party with the likes of late Imada Kapiwa. He was a member of that. And along with our party, we also have former President Christopher J. Loya, and who's also our minister in assistant to the president, and former President K.J. Note, who's now our Minister of Justice. And of course, also a key member of our party's Senator and Paramount Chief, Michael Kabiwa from Kwajalein.
Wow.
So that's the party came together and decided that we'll elect David, who's now our president, David Kabiwa.
So what you do, like in time of election, like us, we're facing election now. Do you it's party put up candidate, and each precinct or constituency you have candidate from each party?
Absolutely. We like last November when we were busy campaigning, we go out together as a party, and we will show the policy we intend to deliver.
If you're elected.
If we're elected. So the whole time we're campaigning is really not on the individual, but on a party platform.
So when the Marcelisco elect, so you put up your candidates, the other party put up their candidates.
Yes.
And you put up your policies, and the other party put up their policies.
Yes.
And you tell the people, if we get elected for the next 4 years, this is what we'll do.
Yes.
Is that right?
Absolutely. And of course, the other parties also doing hard as they work. But every so often, there's some that would run and they will say, we're independent. They like to go neutral, so to speak. And when the new parliament is established, then they kind of decide which side they go. But mostly, like in our case, majority of us that came back to parliament, we were together from day one, going out campaigning and talking with the communities. And when we came in parliament, others joined in afterward.
So would you say this contribute to the the stability, or the political stability in the government of the Marshals? That at least they know, like, this group hold power, they push this, and if the other group takes over, they push these policies. Is that pretty much the?
Well, it's probably, I would say, mixed. Because we have our own history of political instability, so to speak. But when it comes to either party, there are general priorities remain intact. One is, of course, our education sector. It seems like all the different administration, but education, almost seems to be the priority, always. And of course, there are other issues like climate change. Economy, and as well as a health sector. But every so often there's some variance, change of views in how to approach such. But as far as policy side, they're relatively the same, but different way of approaching it.
And do you, as a party, do you meet before session, parliamentary session, and discuss this?
Absolutely.
Which issue you're going to put up front,
yes,
and push, and which issue you're going to be
we call that caucus meeting. And for example, before President David and I came to Palau, oh, and by the way, we're remiss on me to say congratulations for the people of Palau for the 26th anniversary, independent anniversary. You know, it's very honored to be joining, President Romacazao and the people of Palau. And of course, coincide with that, we're also here for the Micronesia President Summit. And, that itself is significant given the COVID environment we're in. But back to your question, we always call a caucus meeting. We have a chair and we have our own agenda. And before President David and I left, we agreed as a caucus that the budget will be passed before we depart from the Marshall Islands. So eventually that was the case. The budget was report back to Parliament on the Tuesday of that week. We debated on Wednesday and we passed it on Thursday.
Wow.
So,
and that's because it's only one house, right? And you have the majority. So if you were to have two houses, then you probably have to send it back to the other house and all that. But this one, because it's one house and you have the majority, you were able to pass it through.
To a large extent, yes. But the budget started with the cabinet, and we introduced it to the Nadizala, or the Parliament, and the Speaker assigned it to what we call Appropriation Committee. And that Appropriation Committee go through the scrutiny, and then they report it back to Parliament. So when I say it was report back, the Appropriation Committee report back on Tuesday, we debated on Wednesday, passed it on Thursday, and days later we flew here to Palau.
And when you voted, did you vote on party line or the minority joined you?
Well, the result of the vote came out 32-1.
Oh, that means the minority joined you.
All of them but one.
Well, but one, huh? Oh, okay. That's like the Senate hit on the budget, only one vote
Okay.
in the majority, but he voted against the rest approved. Wow. So, so we just went through really like 2 months of real gridlock and fight over the budget, our budget.
I see.
Finally, at the 11th hour, on Wednesday, they approved it. So what kind of, did you encounter any serious problem with the budget in terms of shortfall due to COVID situation?
Yes, absolutely. Well, this year budget we just passed is definitely a challenging one. To start with, we forecast a 7% cut on the general fund. So there was we call it budget circular or instruction for all ministries, agencies to prepare their budget based on 7% cut overall. So that this is largely due to forecasts we anticipate from fishery, which is our largest source of revenue coming into the general fund.
Well, so how much is your entire budget? And how much was cut, like 7%?
The budget we just passed, if I recall the number, you have to excuse me, off the top of my head, was over 250 million.
250 million?
Yes.
Wow, that's big, man.
Well, it's actually our largest budget ever. Although the general fund was cut, but we managed to, through COVID and other grants, secured. So it went up significantly, but the discretionary or the operational money that we're able to use for government services, that's the one that's being cut. But with the support from partners, institutions like ADB, World Bank, because of COVID, good part of that came through in grants. So it'll allow us to kind of do more preparation work and set up what needs to be set up.
So what are the biggest items in the budget? You said fishing. So if you put round figure, how much is the largest in terms of revenue earning item in the budget? What's the biggest
Well,
number?
of course, like in any budget, there are sources of fund.
Yeah, the sources.
Yes, and the largest one is the general fund, which the fishery is part of it.
And how much is fisheries budget?
A good year, we would get about $40+ million.
Wow.
This year, we're projecting just about $30 million.
How many boats you have? Fishing there, it must be a lot of boats fishing.
Yes, we're quite into fishery. and through a regional program, as you may well aware, called PNA.
Yes.
That really boosts up the revenue, not just the Marshall, but FSM, all the members, Nauru, Kiribati. It really increases almost threefold from.
Of course, you have a large EEG or large body of water. I mean, much larger
Yes.
than Palau, you know.
Yeah, our E zone is relatively larger than Palau, but not as big as Kiribati or FSM for that matter. And it shows in their fishery revenue, they're also larger.
So their fishing revenue is larger than you,
Oh,
FSM and.
quite larger.
Aha. So as you know, we have closed our water for fishing, so that's a different argument there. But so in terms of like next to fisheries, what other income or sources?
Oh, we have, of course, the local taxes. Local taxes for businesses and employment. And we also get some taxes from the base on Kwajalein, the military use. And of course, as far as funding, there's also the compact funds.
Compact fund. How much are you getting a year?
Through the compact, about over $30 million a year. Yes.
Compact.
Through the compact.
And then also you have like compact funds going to clans or individual landowners, right? Is that?
Well,
Or
that's not part of the compact. When I say compact, it's the grant money that comes to the government, and the government allocated to health and education sector. But in terms of Kwajalein itself, it's the facility is rent out, and what it is, there is an agreement between two governments about the use of that land, and there's a separate agreement between RMI government and the landowners, because the government doesn't offer land to rent. The land belongs to the landowners.
Which are clans or families. Eh?
Yes, and then of course through both government, the land payment is distributed to the landowners.
So now that Imata has passed away, who's getting his share? Because he told me that his share one year is like 10 million or something. So it's Michael, it's a chief. It's a
Yeah,
big
the
chief
younger
now, right?
brother,
Michael Kabua.
Michael Kabua, who's also a senator and a paramount chief. He's now the holder of the title. Yes.
And by the way, what's the population of the Marshall Islands today?
Well, last census we came up, if I recall it, over 50,000.
Man, that's a big number.
Well, there's a big number in the States now, and there's estimate that it's another 20,000. But that was the last census, and there's talks about the next one, holding a next census, but because of COVID, government decided to postpone it for now, and we'll revisit the issue hopefully soon when COVID situation is better.
So what's the deal with this absentee voters? You're absent. If you have that number of people, like about 20,000 voters outside of the Marshalls.
Well, number of voters is not 20, but when I say 20 is from
The child. Eh?
child, yeah. But obviously, to be a registered voters, one has to register. One they're 18, and then of course they'll be on the voting list, and then
So those on the voting list, how many roughly this absentee voters?
it's a good question. I don't know myself what that is, but I know last election we didn't have postal ballots. Yeah, that's partly why. So all the votes were domestic. They were held just within the Marshall Islands.
Well, there was a movement here before election to stop the the voting from overseas, but it still hasn't happened yet. So, but if the voting number, you say like about 10,000 people or less.
I would say yes. It will be close to 10,000.
Yeah.
I think that's a good estimate.
Okay, so look, you came here. Here is the situation. Nauru and Marshall's officials, the president, you guys came here as a delegation. FSM did not come. Kiribati did not come. How did this thing happen? I mean, with COVID and borders closed all over the world, how did you manage to, with Palau, these three countries get together and work out this deal that you come here?
Yes.
And then what happened? Why the FSM and Kiribati did not show up?
Well, I cannot speak for FSM or Kiribati. I'm not they may have their own situation given COVID. But as far as our case, it basically comes down to three reasons. One is we were invited by President Ramaphosa, to hold a Micronesian President Summit, coincide with the celebrating independence anniversary for the people of Palau. Second is there was a transportation made available through the generous offer by the President Lionel Angemea from Nauru. Say, I'll provide the transportation. I have the means to come to Palau, and we'll pick, RMI if they choose, or FSM if they want to join in and Kiribati as well. And of course, the third one is President David say, yes, I'm coming.
Wow. So how many delegations you have, and what about Nauru? And then how did you come here from the Marshalls?
Yes, the plane came to Majuro and picked us up. There's not many Marshall Island delegation. It's President, myself, and I believe 4 staff. But Nauru delegation is a larger.
How many of them?
Well, the President Lionel says he's bringing half of Nauru, and the plane was relatively full.
Was full, huh?
Let's say that, almost full. But we stopped in FSM for fuel, and then straight to Palau.
How many hours?
From Majuro to Panabe is about 2 hours, and then from Panabe to Palau, close to 3 hours. So altogether, with stopover, about 6 hours. Wow. It's a big ocean to cross.
I know. So I know you have you've had a meeting between the 3 presidents, and you just came from a retreat in the Rock Island. What are the things that you conclude or you discuss that I'm sure it's going to be released tonight with the
Yes. Well, without giving much of the detail that will be coming out tonight by the presidents, one thing I know is there was some element of, very being appreciative and thankful that much of Micronesia, well, all of Micronesian island countries are COVID-free. And that's happening because we took the proper measure effectively and timely. But it comes with a price, largely with our economies and with our citizens that are stranded and other services that are affected. But there is a discussion of really looking at a COVID-free region and see how we can better collaborate and coordinate, given the situation we're in. And this is so-called the bubble. It's a relatively new concept. This is really coming from the leadership of Nauru and Palau. And for us in the Marshall, it makes a lot of sense. Normally, when we look for partners, we tend to look at the more developed and far-reaching countries. But our neighbors, we can help one another in many ways.
So instead of looking to outside, we look into ourselves.
To ourselves, and how do we
together?
Yes. Well, the first thing is how do we make sure we continue to make sure we remain free from COVID. And the second phase would be, okay, how do we work together as a sub-region to address our own needs and situations? So it's a viable concept that we're looking into carefully, because there's no way of how long this COVID situation will last. There is talk about vaccines and whatnot, but for all we know, at least we have a sub-region that remains COVID-free, and we want to explore opportunities how we can help one another during this time of hardship.
And did you consider one of the things is to have this kind of mutual visits to come to visit you?
Everything is on the table. There's talk about cargo. There's talk about transportation, air transportation, freight. So everything is on the table, and try to see how we can benefit, given the fact that we all remain COVID-free. But to be very effective as a sub-region, there is a talk that we need to involve our health professionals. So there's a confidence among all of us as a sub-region. We need to better understand each other's protocols and what measures are we taking to ensure COVID remains free.
So when we say sub-region, you're talking about Micronesia. So when you say Micronesia, how many countries are involved?
Well, at the moment is just 5, which include Palau, FSM, RMI, Nauru, and Kiribati.
Kiribati.
Yes.
Of course, Guam and Saipan are they're U.S. territories, so they're not part of the region as made up of independent countries. Yes?
Yes, like I mentioned, at the moment we're focusing on these 5 areas, 5 respective island countries.
Okay. So this the next meeting after this will be where? Did you guys decide that where to meet next?
Well, the chairmanship will be Nauru, and obviously that's still far away when that meeting will take place. But I understand President Romikazawa has expressed an invite for upcoming ocean conference that will be taking place on early part of December. So President David and myself, we're going to go back and talk with our fishery folks and do what we need to do to prepare for ourselves.
Well, as you say, when Caesar went to North Europe to conquer, he told the Gauls that he said, "I came, I saw, I conquer." So now you came, you saw what? What did you see? What's your conclusion after visiting Palau for a few days?
Well, as far as the bubble concept, it's a proven concept. The fact that we're here, and we were tested, by the way, before coming to Palau. Upon arrival, we were tested, and just this morning, we were also tested. Now, this particular test this morning is for our own protocol when we go back. So when we go back, we'll be tested again. So there's a series of measures that are taking place. But as far as the leaders coming together here in Palau, it's very significant. For one is there is so much we can meet and agree through virtual means. But it's so much effective to meet as in person.
In person.
Yes, because there's so much to share, so much to discuss. And I saw that this week. The leaders were very energized to having a chance to openly discuss, much of their thoughts. And, I'm very optimistic in moving weeks and months ahead.
And as you know, I think this is the first time in the world that this thing has happened in a region or sub-region where these leaders meet and take their people for.
Yes.
I don't think, I don't see, I look at the news worldwide, I don't see, countries are still clinging to themselves and try to close their borders and try to handle this, the disease of this pandemic,
Yes.
So,
Well, I'm always in the view initially, from day one that we have to find a way to work with COVID. As we learn more about COVID, we put the measure that is necessary. And back home in the Marshall Islands, there's still an element of us, working with the population, make sure they get the right information, right knowledge, while we uphold the standards. But initially, our standards were way high, and they're still high in my view. One thing is there was a disruption in, the supply cargo ship, which essentially caused some items to, we ran out of certain food items, which that affect our food security
when was
issue.
this? When was this?
Early part of the year, when we put up the restriction in March, right away there was protocol for not just the planes, but our cargo transport, and it disrupted that service. But during that disruption, certain items at the stores, including food, they ran out. So we have to adjust. So we've been adjusting. It's a learning curve as we go. And us being here is also show that we're learning more about this, and we have the confidence with the protocols here in Palau. And of course, as I mentioned earlier, the invitation was made, transportation was offered, and our president said yes.
Yes.
And we're here.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for the time. I understand you guys are leaving tomorrow.
Yes, we're leaving tomorrow morning, and perhaps, if I may take this opportunity and thank you. Very good to see you again here in Palau, and thank the government and people of Palau, the leadership, and President Ramagazao. They've been very gracious to help be with us while we're here in Palau and make sure everything is going well. So.
Okay.
I don't want to leave, but I have to go home with the family and do the work at home. But I look forward to come back again if the opportunity provides.
Well, next time, after next election, you become president again, and then invite me to your inauguration. But don't change. Okay, thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Kaibigan nombre kan mga tadu ulo banggela Foreign Minister Plura Marshal Casten Nemura. Komanom Saul.